Welcome everybody to the first edition of insert podcast name here because we're not quite sure on the name yet. We're still deciding the name of that, but regardless, we are starting this podcast off as a way to let you guys know more about ourselves. We're gonna use this first episode as an introduction. We've never had the opportunity to proper introduce ourselves and as to what we're about here at Team Ultra. So hopefully you guys are listening. Make sure that you put it on in the background as you do whatever it is that you got going on today, and hopefully you guys will hear us out. And we're gonna use this again, like I mentioned, as an opportunity to introduce ourselves as to who we are, how we got introduced to Smash Brothers, and also talk about our stories with esports and how we even got into the scene. But it's not only just me. My name is 11. I do have my amazing co-hosts and people that are super important here at Team Ultra. We have Champ, who is our team manager. How are you doing, Champ?
I'm doing good today. It's good to be part of the first episode, Something new, something fresh.
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear what people for you to let people know what you're all about. And also we
for sure.
have the owner, the co-owner of Team Ultra. We have Zenoshi, also known as Zeno. How are you doing, Zeno?
I'm doing fine. How's it going, everybody?
We with our goal with this podcast is to, and for future content, is to entertain you guys. Hopefully you guys are interested and what we have planned in the future. But again, like I said, we are going to use this episode to let you guys know what we're all about, because as far as you're aware, we're just some strangers on a goddamn podcast. So yeah, that's the goal for today. I guess just to get started, we can save some of the esports stuff for later, but we can just start off by talking about what we're about, just a little bit about ourselves now, and maybe if you guys want to get into how we got introduced to Smash Brothers, you guys can go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm gonna toss it over to Champ first. Tell us about yourself a little bit and what you're all about.
Yeah. Well, hi. What's going on? As said earlier, my name is Champ. I am from the good old South of New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm 17 years old, turning 18 in. If this comes out in August, I will be 18 years old.
Sure.
I know. Sheesh. I'm gonna be legal now. Isn't that crazy?
Well, somewhat.
As the time of this recording, I am 17, but in August when this releases, I will be 18 years old.
Let's go. And what do you get up to in Louisiana? I know that we always meme about like the
The thing
crawfish
about
boils and stuff like that, but
yeah, so what we got down here in Louisiana, you won't find anywhere else around the United States of America, around the whole world even. We
yeah.
have some of the most traditional, how do I say this? The most traditional cooking, I think, out of any state, and like, I wouldn't say like in the whole entire country. There's some other good ass countries and different cultures who have really good cooking. But down here, we like to keep it. We like to keep it southern, like I like to say. We have, y'all may have heard some of these dishes. We got gumbo. We have jambalaya, which is spelled jambalaya with G-A-M at the beginning, not G-U-M. It's not jambalaya, or it's not jambalaya. It's jambalaya.
Really?
Jambalaya. That's how you say it.
God damn, I didn't know that.
We got gumbo, and then we got the platinum, what we like to call the platinum dish down here. We have seafood boils, most notably crawfish. Which, fun fact, did you know that up in the north they call it crayfish?
Yeah, I've heard that. That's how I've heard it.
If I hear any of you in the comments say crayfish, I will personally come. No, I'm kidding.
Not the
But yeah, we
crayfish,
got
bro.
some really traditional cooking down here, and if y'all are ever down here, y'all must try the food. Oh, and my favorite, I can't forget, we got this cool little dessert called beignets.
Oh, that's where they're from?
Yeah, they're from They're from down here, dude.
Sheesh. The ones that are like covered in powdered sugar and shit?
Yes, the ones that are covered in powdered sugar.
Nice. Yeah, those are good. I paid like $40 for 2 of them at Disneyland one time.
Like back in the olden days, since New Orleans is a French heavily inspired culture.
You guys like to party?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this on YouTube, but back then when times were dark and people owned people, if you guys know what I mean.
Yeah.
The people who were owned by the people, they came up with all these good traditional foods. They were good blacksmiths, they were good house cleaners. Like they are the reason that our food is so delicious today. That's about my hometown where I grew up in.
You've never lived anywhere else?
Never lived anywhere else. Nope. It's just been Louisiana.
Damn, that's crazy.
I may have traveled, but yep, it was just Louisiana.
Yeah, I've for the most part lived where I currently live. For the most of my life, I did move out to Los Angeles for 1 year. But that's pretty much it. I ended up right back here. And I honestly can't complain too much. Just like not much I can complain about. I like it. Small town, really do like the
And then
vibe.
Zeno's just been a Canadian his whole life.
Zeno is our resident Canadian here. Zeno, you want to go ahead and let people know just a little bit about yourself, where you're from, a little bit of your upbringing. You know what I mean?
Sure. I'm from the best country, Canada. No, I'm kidding. But you know, I'm from
I mean, to
Canada.
be
And you
fair,
also,
you guys do have Toys R Us still, so
Oh
I
yeah,
can
that's true.
I can see why
we
y'all are
do.
the best country. Y'all still have Toys R Us.
Fuck.
We do, and we also have the best maple syrup. No cap.
True.
That's what I mean. That's what we're known for. So basically, yeah, I've been in Canada my whole life, unfortunately, but no, I digress. Yeah, no, I'm from the east coast of Canada. We're really well known for our seafood, specifically lobster.
Oh dang.
We got a lot of good lobster down here from where I'm from. I haven't had lobster in quite a while, but lobster is probably one of my favorite seafoods.
I've never
If I
had
had to
it.
pick one, you've never had it,
No, I've never had it. I always want to though.
bro. If you ever come to Canada, you need to have lobster.
Hell yeah.
I mean, we have a fair bit of seafood down here. Like I said, like we
Yeah.
got crawfish, we got crabs, we got shrimp. We're not really known for lobster. Lobster is more of like just a fancy dish you'll find anywhere.
Yeah, that's true. I suppose. Yeah.
If only we put Cajun seasoning on lobster.
But yeah, no, I'm from the East Coast. That's been here my whole life, pretty much.
What city did you grow up in?
I want to. Wait, what's that?
I said, what city did you grow up in?
I grew up in Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is where I still live. I have not moved anywhere else. I've been here my whole life. Um, but I want to eventually maybe move out west. I want to kind of maybe go to British Columbia, move out there one day.
Nice.
I do have a few family members out there, because that's one thing too. And the West is always something I kind of want to see, change of environment. And also the west side of Canada, they have a lot better weather than the east side does, so that's one thing. It's sunny. It's almost like summertime, almost on the other side of the country for most of the year.
Damn.
Rarely will they ever get snow, so yeah, they're pretty lucky over there. But yeah, that's about it. That's all I really say on me for right now, I suppose.
That's funny that you mentioned that, because the first image that comes to my head whenever I think of Canada is just snow all the time. So to know that that's not exactly the case in some parts of it is like,
oh well,
dang.
Most of Canada there's snow. There's snow. Where I live, the winters here are freaking ridiculous. I can't stress that enough. The winters here are absolutely freaking brutal. It's nuts.
Yeah.
I literally despise freaking winter in Canada. I literally hate it with a burning passion. It's so bad.
What's it like?
Hot take. I've been up to Minnesota, which is literally Canada's next door neighbor.
Did you like it though?
Good. I love the winters in Minnesota. I love playing in the snow. I love everything about it. It's probably because I live down here in the South, where it's like 100 degrees during the summer. So it's a nice change of pace.
Yeah, our weather is like so freaking weird where I live, because there was like 2 years, like there was 1 year and then it was like a couple years after that. It literally snowed in June, and I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Like snow in June. The hell?
That's honestly really cool, because here where I live, and I guess I'll get into what my little brief piece about myself. Where I am, I live in essentially the desert, right? I live in a border town. I'm not gonna exactly say where I live, but just because I'm kind of weird about that. But where I live in a border town, really close to the border, really close to Mexico, like 30 minutes away.
No, I'm kidding. Go on.
Don't dox me. Yeah. I live like 30 minutes from the border, and yeah, again, it's like the desert. Right now, it's 108 degrees. And it was about 120 the other day, so it's been fucking horrible.
Bro, me and 11 living in the Wild West for real.
Yeah, dude. And I originally this is where I spawned. I was born in Mexico, Mexicali, Baja California, Mexico, and it was I honestly didn't really spend too much time there. I moved to the United States when I was 5 years old, and did essentially all my school besides kindergarten here, in the U.S. And it was a trip, like honestly, like learning a new language. But I was so happy, I was so lucky, that I moved here at a young age, and so English was very easy to learn. Which is kind of funny because now I speak English more than I do Spanish, and I'm unfortunately sort of forgetting Spanish as the day goes by. Yeah, I grew up in California. I've been in California even the year that I didn't live where I currently live. I lived in Los Angeles, but I don't think I would ever imagine myself living anywhere else. If anything, I would just move to a different city here in California, because the weather in places like Los Angeles and like especially San Diego are so is the weather is it's always sunny, but it's like a little bit chilly. Summers are pretty manageable, 80 degrees, potentially maybe just 90, but I mean it's better than the 120-degree weather. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to, hopefully one day, finances allow and time allows, hopefully able to move to one of those cities, because I'm a big fan of the weather there. But besides that, I don't even know what like food we're known for. I don't really like keep up with that
I mean,
shit.
y'all are down. If you're down next to the border in Mexico, you must have like a lot of Mexican-inspired dishes, or maybe just Mexican dishes in general.
Yeah, we do that. There's also a lot of fast food places.
Of course, there is. Why
It's
wouldn't
like
there
very
be?
Americanized, regardless of how close
Very.
to another country we are.
At this point, I feel like the whole world's trying to become Americanized.
Yeah, and it's kind of dystopian. It's kind of scary, but yeah, that's how it is,
I don't want
honestly.
every place to be America. I want to hear British accents.
I actually can I just say something about fast food places. Like literally in Canada, of course, we have our fair share of fast food places. Of course,
Yeah, at least you
we
got
we
McDonald's.
I mean, well, yeah, we share a bunch of like restaurants that are also in the U.S. obviously, but like I've been to the U.S. a couple times, and let me just tell you, y'all got some freaking bomb ass fire restaurants that I wish were
Yeah,
freaking
dude.
here in
I mean,
Canada.
of course, that's what we're known for. We're known for
Yeah, what
like
he's referring
greasy
to,
fast food.
what Zeno's referring to, is the time that me and him met up at Let's Make Moves Miami, and I made him try me and Hockey made him try Chick-fil-A.
That's essential
Well,
though.
not
You have to.
not even it's not even just Chick-fil-A. I'm talking about everything else that's down there. Like y'all
What else
got it
did you
made. I'm
try
telling
down
you.
here
Did
besides a Chick-fil-A?
Did you get to try Jack in the
Well,
Box? I don't know if Jack in the Box is there.
Okay, hot
no,
take. I don't like Jack in the Box.
and also Miami wasn't my first time in the States. I've been down the States multiple times.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hot take.
So
I don't like Jack in the Box.
Bro, Jack
I've
in the
tried
Box
I've
slaps.
tried quite a few
Everyone, I'm about to get
fast food
so flamed
restaurants
in the
in the States.
comments.
What is your favorite fast food restaurant that you've had from the States that you don't have over there?
Because I had Chick-fil-A obviously when I was in Miami last year,
Mm-hmm.
and then the last time I was in the U.S. before that was 2013, but I don't even really remember where the frick I went for any fast food places. I don't really know. I'm just gonna have to go Chick-fil-A on this one because that's the only one that comes to recent memory. So I'm gonna have to go with that one.
Yeah, and honestly, even if it's just legitimately your one, it's understandable. Chick-fil-A is they got something going on. I don't know if it's the homophobia or if it's like just some weird shit that they're adding to the
Damn.
batter, but they're doing something with that
The weird
chicken.
shit
And
they're adding to the
Well, actually, now I just remember this. Technically, Chick-fil-A is not only in the States now because I'm literally going to Toronto this month for Gommel, and apparently there is now a Chick-fil-A in Toronto. So
Oh,
technically,
Yay!
I gotta go try that.
so technically, it's
Vegan
in Canada
Chick-fil-A
now
food.
too.
Yeah, 11. You said you mentioned that you. I mean, I know this, but for the people watching, you do speak a little Spanish. So if you want, you can show off some of your Spanish skills into the non-Spanish speakers. I'm sure we'll put subtitles in there later to see what 11's actually saying. Because to me and Zeno, we have no idea what he's saying.
Mira, champ, te voy a decir algo. Mejor cállese el hocico y hay que movernos, ¿ok? Nah, I'm just joking, but yeah, I do speak.
I understood none of that.
So that means Zeno can rewatch it and see what the hell he actually said to us. For all I know, he's probably cursing me out.
No,
I'm
I
not
said
a
that.
translator for that one.
I said that you're an amazing person and I love you, dude.
Wait, was that targeted toward Champ or both of us?
No, well, Champ's the one that asked
It's
me.
me. Only I get the love. I get the love here.
Nah, both of you.
That
But
was funny.
Yeah, so it's really cool because obviously we've talked about just different things as we have grown to know each other through working in Team Ultra, formerly Deathbed, and it's really cool because I'm learning new things as well. So hopefully through this podcast that also helps that as well. But the one of the things that we do have in common that we are faced with throughout our day to day, whether we sometimes want to or not, is Smash Brothers, right? We all are part of the esports scene. We run an esports team, so we are a team that mainly focuses on Smash Brothers as well. So we are bound to see a lot of different takes, a lot of different tier lists, a lot of different things regarding Smash Brothers every day. We live Smash Brothers, and whether we want to or not, it could be a little bit overwhelming at times. But I do want to ask you guys. I do some of it know some of it already, but for the audience who is potentially listening, Champ, you want to let us know how exactly you got introduced to Smash Brothers, or what motivated you to check out Smash Brothers?
All right. So it may sound like a simple story on top, but if you guys don't know, or if you guys do know, I main Sonic in Smash Bros. Ultimate and have main
Boo.
Sonic.
Okay.
Boo! Get
Get him
him off
out of
the
here!
stage.
Get him out of here!
But I main Sonic in Smash Ultimate, and I have for the last 10 years, if not more, since he got introduced in Brawl. But even besides that, the reason I main Sonic is because, believe it or not, I am a Sonic fan.
Wow, who would have guessed?
Sonic fan
I'm a
main
stinky
Sonic.
Sonic
That's
fan. No,
crazy.
yeah, but I've liked Sonic since I was basically a newborn. Um,
Spawned a hedgehog.
New, newborn.
I
Oh,
came
oh,
out of the
damn.
womb like I came out of
Spiky.
the womb Sonic.
Bro,
I
bro, just.
came out of the womb spin dashing.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah. Oh, that's a funny image in my head. Oh god.
Oh no! Stop thinking about it. Now you're making me think about it. But I used to watch all the Saturday morning cartoons. I think my brother had a copy of Sonic and the Black. No, what was?
Sonic and the Black Knight, yeah.
No. It was Sonic 06.
Sonic 06.
It
Oh,
was
that's a
Sonic
great
06
one
for
to
the
start off
Xbox,
with.
and I watched him play, and
Okay.
it was really really cool. And I got into Sonic when I was just about to turn a year old. Like I had a bunch of plushies. I had a Sonic blanket. And I wouldn't get anything unless it was blue,
He's an
like
OG, all
Sonic.
right. He's not just doing it for
I
Ultimate.
am an
He's an OG.
OG.
He's about it.
And don't worry, like I played before I even turned 5 years old. I played the original games. I played Sonic 1, played Sonic 2. So I'm not just a modern Sonic who hasn't played the classics.
No,
But anyway, so the story is I'm getting off topic. I'm talking about Sonic.
you're good.
I walk into a GameStop when I'm 3 years old because Brawl came out in 2008, and that's when
Making me
my
feel old.
abuelo, which for the not Spanish speakers is Spanish for grandpa. 11
Abuelo.
knows, obviously. I mean,
Yeah.
so my abuelo and I walk into GameStop to look for some games for my Wii because my brother played the Wii a lot. We all played Wii Sports together. Me, him, my abuelo, and his girlfriend at the time, who now actually is his wife. So shout out to abuelo. Abuelo, if you're listening, I love you.
Shout out to Abuelo, man.
But it was me, my brother, his girlfriend, me, my brother, my abuelo, and his girlfriend. We all play Wii Sports. We walk into GameStop, look at all the games, and I look at this game with Mario on the front. And I'm not stupid. I know who Mario. I may have been a Sonic fanboy, but I knew who Mario was. I
Mhm.
just didn't play the Mario games because I was too obsessed with Sonic.
To be fair, Sonic is definitely cooler than Mario, like in terms of the image
Sure.
and the music.
You know what they say? Sega does what Nintendo don't.
Yeah, there you go. See what I mean? He's an OG.
So I walk in, I see Mario on the front cover, along with this weird green dude with a sword, a weird puffball, and some fat dude that looked like Mario
But he was yellow.
on the front cover. And then there was an angel in the sky. I'm like, wait, why is he an angel? Why is he flying? So I pick up the game. I turn over to the back, and who do I see on the back? Well, I see Solid Snake first of all.
Uh-huh.
But right next to him is another Smash character. But right next to that Smash character was Sonic the Hedgehog. And I looked at it. Then I looked at my grandpa, my abuelo. Then I looked back at the game. Then I looked back to abuelo. I walk over to him. I said, "Can we get this?" And I showed him that it has Sonic on it. And he's like, "Okay."
Okay. Say less.
Okay. I told him it was multiplayer. or he looked at the cover. He said he found out it was multiplayer and that we could all play it together. And he was like, okay. So
That's
I
cool.
got it, and I boot up the game for the first time, and I'm actually really sad because I
Oh.
found out that you have to unlock Sonic. I'm like, I don't get him out the box. And ever since that day, I've played Super Smash Brothers. Ever since I've played Sonic. I played Sonic throughout the entirety of Wii U, with the exception of secondary Mewtwo
Goated.
in Smash 4. Which, yeah, I secondary Mewtwo in Smash 4. That was crazy. And ever since Smash Ultimate until now, I've always played Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, that's a really
And that
good.
was my story of how I got into Smash. As with competitive, it just started in the quarantine era, like how most careers started nowadays. See, this is why Onen's here. Onen wouldn't be Onen if it weren't for quarantine.
Yeah, that's actually kind of true. I forget how much
Most of
time.
the Steve players we see now wouldn't be a thing if it weren't for quarantine. You know DJ Don? He wouldn't be here, bro. He'd probably be out there having a life.
He'd be a mega Chad. I mean, he is a Chad.
He'd be
but
a mega Chad, bro. He'd be going to the gym at
He'd be jacked.
11 years old, lifting up 200-pound weights. DJ Don, if you're listening, bro. If you're listening, bro.
Yeah, in the multiverse, there's definitely a timeline where DJ Don never picked up Smash Brothers, or there never was Smash Brothers, and he's just ultra yoked.
Do y'all know that? Do you remember the news thing of like the 11-year-old who was dubbed Little Hercules because of how yoked he was?
Oh yeah, dude, and he was like legitimately jacked. That was
so jacked because
that was so disturbing.
His father like pushed him to the edge to like keep working out and like get buff. That kid, that's DJ Don in another timeline.
That's funny.
If 11 can find an image of it somewhere,
yeah, I'll throw it up. I'll throw it up because it's a wild picture.
This is good. That's gonna be DJ Don in the future.
That's already DJ Don, man. We haven't seen his true form. We haven't seen his true form, man.
I can't. I'm gonna get stalked by an 11-year-old.
That's DJ Don if he mained like a sword character.
That is DJ Don if he mained Cloud.
Well, I mean, Steve is like what? 10% a sword fighter.
10%.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. So is Ganondorf. Yeah. Technically, they're all swordies.
I mean, and then with Sonic and Smash, you might as well have a sword.
Yeah, dude, Sonic with the sword.
That's my life story. How I got into Smash and gaming, all because of a tiny blue hedgehog, a 3'8" anthropomorphic blue hedgehog.
Was Sonic really not in the cover of Brawl?
He was on the back cover. He was on the back of being like.
Yeah, not in the front though.
No, he was on the front cover. Neither was Snake.
I would think that with like how crazy of characters they are, they would be.
I know. I mean, that'd be like the best marketing tool.
Yeah, for real.
See, that's probably, if they did that, then Brawl would have sold more copies.
I think so. I think having Sonic there is pretty cool.
Sonic or Snake.
Yeah, Sonic or Snake. But no, that's cool. I do remember when we getting slightly in the topic of esports, whenever we were doing the interview series for World Esports, I did get to hear that story of how you got introduced to Smash Brothers and how you picked up the game with your abuelo, your grandpa. So it's really, I always like hearing those stories. But I'm not entirely sure if I've heard Zeno's story, so I'm looking forward to what Zeno has to say about how he got into Smash Brothers and why he is where he is right now.
All right, so the Smash game that I first started with was Melee, back when I was like, I don't know, like 4, 5, 6, something like that. My first exposure to Smash was because of a stepbrother that I had at the time. During that time, that was kind of why. He had a GameCube, and he had like a bunch of games, and I always like got to like play some of them. And then I eventually got like my own Wii, so, and of course the Wii was backwards compatible. So Melee was like one of the first, was like the first Smash game I ever played, and also I think it was like one of the first games I ever played in general. So of course that's kind of how I got exposed to Smash.
How old were you when you first started playing Melee?
I think I was like 6 or 7, something like that.
Damn.
Something like that, yeah. But yeah, so I do remember. There's one thing I remember briefly from my childhood. One time we took like this family road trip, and I think we went to Boston. I think it was basically. I was in the back seat with my stepbrother and my 2 stepsisters at the time, and we had this, like, since the road trip, of course, was so long, because driving to Boston is like a long way, from where I am, and we had this setup in the back seat, like a literal TV setup with a GameCube, And we literally were
Damn.
sitting back there playing Melee, like on the
That's
road.
so sick.
Yeah, so we were doing that. That was kind of one of my first major exposures to it. And then Brawl came around, and then of course we switched to that. Of course, I wasn't into competitive back then. Heck, I didn't even know what competitive was back then. So yeah, Brawl came around, and I of course played it with them and whatnot. I think the thing that kind of kept me hooked to Smash was the fact that oh look, Mario's on the cover.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, exactly.
that was one of the big things. I'm like, yo, it's Mario. I gotta play this obviously because I was a kid. After that, as I got older, me and my mom moved out of that place. So, but luckily I still had my own copy of Melee in Brawl when we moved out. So I still had to play that on my own time on my own consoles or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then years passed. I took breaks up playing it for a while because I didn't really have anybody to play with at the time. And then I guess I'll just fast forward to this. When high school came around, this kind of gets into how I got into competitive, actually. When I got into competitive Smash, basically, it's when I first entered high school. And I met I met like a new friend there a couple months into it. And it's one of my friends that I still talk to this day, and I even go to my locals with them. And funny enough, the way that we met was in our school library because he was playing the Smash 3DS demo. So it took off from there, and he kind of introduced me to competitive Smash because I think he was sort of into it at the time, and also the fact that our high school actually had like tournaments every once in a while. That like we would actually host like Smash tournaments at the high school, and we also had like this one yearly event where it was like a major like gaming con inside of our high school, and there was tournaments there for that too.
That's sick.
Um, that that mainly consisted of Melee, Project M, and Smash 4. Because of course Ultimate wasn't out at that time or even announced. Basically, I started with Melee competitively. I didn't really get into Smash 4 competitively until a bit later. When because I had to wait for the game to come out. I didn't play Smash 3DS competitively because who wants to play a game competitively with a freaking circle pad? I'm not doing that. And Smash 3DS, of course, that didn't really have a competitive, a competitive scene because everyone was waiting for the Wii U version. So that was kind of that. I do know competitively, I did start with Melee, which actually kind of backtrack a bit here. I wasn't so much into competitive before high school, but I was attending a couple Melee and Project M tournaments beforehand. But when I entered high school, I got into it like a lot more, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, I took off with Melee, Project M, and that was probably one of my big highlights of competitive. And then when I got into Smash 4, Smash 4, honestly, I'll just be honest with you, competitive Smash 4, it just kind of came and went.
It did.
Competitive Smash 4 for me was like an absolute freaking dread for a lot of it. Of course, I have some good, memorable things from it. When I first started with competitive Smash 4, I was a Sonic main actually. And I did main Sonic a bit in Project M, but that kind of slowly faded out too. And I think when I was playing competitive Melee, I had there was this one local that was near me that I used to go to quite a bit, and I think I went there at least maybe twice a month or whatever. And I ended up being PR'd in my region, and even at such a young age too.
That's sick.
So
How old were
I
you
was
again?
honestly kind of I would have been like 16 at the time, so I was honestly kind of proud of that. Or it was like 15, 16, something like that. It was around that time. Um, same thing with PM. And there was a lot of people too in my high school that were really into Project M and Melee, and they also would help me train too. So that was another cool thing too. One of the biggest moments I remember from playing Melee competitively back then is that I took down the number one player in bracket in my region one time.
That's still sick, dude. Even if it's just ones, that was pretty dope.
A lot of people were shocked by it, but honestly, that was probably one of my biggest highlights for that personally. So yeah, that was kind of my whole adventure with Smash competitively. Melee, Project M, Smash 4 up until that point. I remember my last ever Smash 4 tournament was at some kind of random local event that was at like some like hallway. I don't remember what building it was called, but I just went to it because one of my friends were going to it.
That's solid.
They had Smash 4 and Melee there, I ended up dropping out of Smash 4 because I just did not give a fuck. So I just went and played Melee instead. Um, that one I didn't do too bad at, and then after that, that was close to when Ultimate came out. But yeah, and ever since that, that's kind of how I got into Smash, pretty much. And then, of course, there's a lot of history with me in Ultimate, but we can kind of go into that later when we talk about esports, I guess.
Yeah, because I think for all of us, I feel like it's when Ultimate came around that a lot of us started learning about what esports, or maybe just potentially for Smash, or actually getting into esports. But that's really cool to hear that, you know, you started with Melee in a competitive aspect of Smash Brothers, and then you had some notable things, right? And I think that's important. Both Champ and Zeno share. I don't know if Champ, if you were saving, your competitive aspect currently and how you perform currently in where you're from, but yeah, Champ is also have actively has had success in competitive Smash Brothers, and I guess when we talk about esports, he can go ahead and get into that and how he's doing there. But for me, it's kind of like, because I'm noticing that you guys did actively play those games, either just through growing up with Nintendo consoles or just having friends that played it. For me though, I'm a little bit older, I think, than Zeno. I'm not. How old are you, Zeno, if I may ask?
24.
Yeah, so Zeno's 24. I am 26, about to turn 27
It's
this
so
year.
young.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay, yeah, yeah, you're like 20. Yeah, so you'd be like 3 years older than me.
Yeah, so for me, my introduction to Smash Brothers was Smash 64. I grew up in Mexico. I would actively spend a lot of my weekends or even days at a time hanging out with my cousins. And I do remember I didn't have an N64 at the time, but my cousin did. And so we would go to, because back then some of the convenience stores that are now convenience stores were previously rental stores, and we would go and we would rent N64 games like pretty on a pretty frequent basis every week. And one of the games that we would commonly rent was Smash 64, and that was a lot of fun. And it wasn't until I moved to the United States that I got the opportunity to play Melee. I think Melee came out like a year. There was already a year had already been passed since I after I got my own copy and was able to play it. But Melee honestly really did it for me. It was so cool to be able to play through the adventure mode, the classic mode, and they also had like the all the unlockables, how you get all the characters as well as the trophies, the little cool side missions that you can do and whatnot. So I spent a ton of time, and it would also help that those same cousins that I grew up with would spend summers with me here in the US. They would come over here and spend a couple weeks of their summer here, and we would constantly stay up playing Melee and other GameCube games as well. So I have very fond memories, as well as where I grew up, because at one point we were living in an apartment, like a area with apartments, and there was a program there that the management had that was funded by the police, and it was essentially a program where people or kids could go after school to work on homework, but also make sure that kids aren't doing anything dumb in the streets. You know what I mean? So they had computers with internet. They had GameCube there, and it was there where I kind of figured out that I was sort of decent. And keep in mind, when I say decent, I'm talking about it in a sense that there was still items, all the crazy stage hazards were there, but I was still actively like beating the other kids, and people would consider me good, but it wasn't anything competitive. Moving on, when we moved on to Brawl, however, I think at the time, I never was able to get a Wii because I had kind of moved on from it. I wanted to have like an Xbox because of games like Call of Duty and like all that stuff. So I really wanted an Xbox, and the Wii was kind of out of the picture for me. I did play Brawl a bit through a friend's house. I would frequent his house a lot because we would play Brawl a lot, maybe even go back to Melee from time to time. And at the time, I didn't know this. I don't even remember who I played. I think I might have played like Falco because I remembered him from Melee. My friend, he was chronically online at the time. And keep in mind, this was like in the early 2000s. This dude was chronically online at the time, and he knew that Meta Knight was fucking broken, so he would constantly play Meta Knight. And I just didn't know. I wasn't aware that he was the most broken character in the game. But yeah, but after that, when Smash 4 came out, I was completely not in the loop with when it came to Nintendo consoles at the time. I didn't have a 3DS, I didn't have a Wii U. I would still keep up with it. I would still actively, like, I remember like all the reveals, all the trailers and whatnot. So even if I didn't have it, I would still keep up with it. And I did play a bit of Smash 4, again at a friend's house. You guys might know Eric Eccentric or just Eccentric. I would go to his house because he had a Wii U, and I remember maining Cloud, which was kind of cool because he was really broken in that game as well. I just didn't know it either. But
What you mean, Cloud and Smash 4?
yeah, Cloud and Smash 4.
Oh, I don't want to even freaking remember that. Oh god.
Yeah, so I didn't even know that he was broken, but I just really like Cloud because I knew him through Final Fantasy, and it was really cool that he was in it. For me, competitive Smash Brothers was something that I wasn't really even motivated to do until Ultimate. I decided that it was when Ultimate came out that I wanted to get really good at the game, and I'm still not exactly where I want to be, but I feel like I'm way better than I was at the beginning. But I have kind of dipped my toes into competitive Smash Brothers, playing online tournaments through running a team. I've been kind of getting the itch to play in online tournaments here and there. I have been to 2 events, not really placing well, but it's still really cool to play friendlies and just be in that environment. And I really do like it regardless of how I perform. It's something that, oh man, like at times I really do wish that I was good at it, but I know that I'm fine with where I am. I'm having fun. I don't need that sort of pressure to really compete. I know I'm not good like that anyways. I know that I will get absolutely washed. I'm an O2er at heart, but I still really really do like it. And I never knew that there was a competitive side of Smash Brothers until and I mentioned this on other platforms, but I do know that I mentioned it, but it wasn't until I saw the clip of Hungrybox beating Armada at EVO 2016 that I was even aware that there was even a competitive side of Smash Brothers. And it was then that I started looking into Smash 4, and since Ultimate I've been keeping up with it, and as well as Melee, going back and learning the lore about the gods of Melee, learning who was the best players at the time in Smash 4, and then just seeing the rise of MKLeo and where we're at right now, where he's not even in the top 3 best players in the world. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey, and I think that, and also I do want to say, because I noticed that you guys both did this, I never main Sonic. I could probably say I've never main Sonic. All right, I've never main Sonic. I've always been a a Swordies player. I feel like nowadays, but I've never.
I'm a Swordies player in Ultimate, but any other Smash game, I was not a fan of sword fighters.
I don't remember if like we're like, well, I take that back. Marth is a top tier in Melee. Cloud was in Smash 4.
I always thought that Swordies looked weird.
Swordies look weird.
Yeah, no, like just like the way that Marth looked or Ike
Marth
looked,
is
I was
goofy.
like,
Ike is kind of weird.
Back then, Marth looked really goofy. Like, remember? Do you remember Brawl Marth and how goofy he looked?
I don't remember Marth and Brawl actually.
Marth and Brawl was like
that forgettable. Is he so mid?
It was like,
is he mid?
He just didn't look right. I mean, to be fair, Brawl has his own art style, so not every character looked right. I mean, every character looked like
it's like sepia toned almost.
Yeah, they look like they just came out of like a big fight and are just really dirty.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't even know
it
he
has
was in
more
Brawl.
of like a serious tone to it. Like whenever you look at Mario, all you can think is denim. His denim texture is like
insane.
Really
Brawl's art style is so freaking ugly. Like I like Brawl's game, but like I don't like that art style.
It kind of just looks washed out, like sepia tone, like I said. Yeah, no, I do. Again, competitive Smash Brothers is just ingrained into us nowadays, especially in the scene that we're in, and how we, again, like I mentioned earlier, just actively engage with it. But as we mentioned several times, we've also mentioned esports and how how we've got introduced to esports, but I do want to give these guys the opportunity to sort of talk about, if you guys want to talk about just esports in general and how you got introduced to just esports, not just necessarily just Smash Brothers. You guys could go ahead and do that too, but yeah, let me know, champ, if you want to go ahead as you begin.
So the way I got introduced into esports, it's kind of like what I said earlier. It was mostly just the quarantine, and I think the first ever tournament I did was a Hungry Box tournament.
One of the juice boxes.
One of the juice boxes, yeah.
Damn.
And I actually got like 49th out of like 500 people.
Damn, that's nice.
For my first ever tournament, I was like, dang, Sonic's really good. I honestly don't know how I did that well, because I was still fairly new to Ultimate. Like, I haven't been grinding it, I haven't been labbing it. I was just playing all the classic modes for fun. And I didn't even know how to operate what it was called back then, Smash.gg.
I always forget that it was called that.
It's not called Smash.gg anymore because they don't host tournaments.
Yeah, it's Star GG.
Or they don't.
We all
They
love
don't
them.
host tournaments. They don't host just Smash tournaments.
Yeah, and we all love Star GG, right?
It could be better.
Unironically.
We have to love it.
We have to love it, or else say goodbye to like one of our only good tournament organizing
Platforms.
websites.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Whenever I did the juice box, that was the first time I ever heard of like Hungry Box. And I think I remember I commented on in his stream being like, "Hey H-Box, this was a really good tournament. For my first time ever competing, it was awesome." And he actually responded to my comment, he's like, "I'm glad you liked it," or something like that. And I was like, well, that was nice. That was a nice interaction I had.
Would you say that was your first time like learning, like finding out about Hungry Box's like existence? Is that what you said?
Yeah, the first time I entered that tournament was the first time I just like acknowledged that, oh yeah, this guy exists. And then when I did more research on him, I was like, oh, this guy's actually good.
He was kind of good. He's kind of good.
He was kind of good. He was kind of good.
Interesting.
Maybe if I have a good day, I can probably beat him up. But
Interesting, because I've known who HBox is ever since I
yeah,
like started Smash. Pretty much.
I knew HBox before I knew MKLeo or Spargo or Tweet. I mean, to be fair, Spargo came like after quarantine. Back then, when Samsora was like a dominant player, I didn't know who all those people were. I only
Right.
knew Hungry Box. But that's kind of the story on how I got into competitive. And then I decided, hey, maybe I'll get good. Maybe I'll get into it. Maybe I'll meet some new friends. And again, it was quarantine. I was a lonely kid. I was homeschooled. I didn't go to normal school. I didn't have any friends. The Smash competitively was kind of an excuse for me to make more friends. And then I went to my first local in October of 2021 question mark. Or it was like sometime around the fall of 2021. And then I went there and I'm like, dang, going to an offline tournament is really cool. And now everyone knows me in Louisiana as the Sonic player.
That's pretty dope.
As the stinky Sonic player.
Still not Sonic, so don't count. No, I'm kidding.
And that's kind of my story, how I got into competitive and what drove me to play more competitive.
What about what about esports though? Like how again,
I'm gonna be completely honest. When I first got introduced to esports in general, y'all gotta kill me for this, but y'all have any games or do y'all have any assumptions of what game got me into esports or got me found out about esports?
Is it like something silly or something like pretty
It's
common?
something very silly.
Is it like Brawlhalla or something like that?
No.
I don't know then.
It's gotta be some like obscure game.
Only a 13-year-old squeaker could love.
Oh, Fortnite?
Fortnite.
Oh. I mean, at the time it was popping off, yeah.
At the time, it was good.
Yeah.
Fortnite was the first time I got introduced because when I played it a lot when I was a 13-year-old squeaker, there's this thing, I think it was called like the Duos Heart Cup, because it was the first ever competitive cup that was on the same day as Valentine's. It wasn't on the same day, but it was around the same time as Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time I got introduced to like esports, because I went on to YouTube or Twitch and I watched the cup and I watched people play and I was like, whoa, this is so cool. But the first time I think I was introduced to like competitive gaming as a whole was, I think, probably Fortnite, but if not, it was probably like Call of Duty or something.
And
I've played like Fortnite once or twice, but honestly, I just can't get into it. It's not for me.
Throughout the first 12 years of my gaming, it's only been single player games or games I play with my brother. So like the Batman Arkham games or Sonic the Hedgehog or Halo. Like I only just played games that were single player, or I played them with my brother. And then Fortnite was the first time I found out that competitive gaming is a thing.
Yeah, I think that wasn't the I think you're not alone in that. I feel like when it comes to the meteoric rise of Fortnite, I definitely do think that they did a good job at like doing that the esports side of things, right? And it also helps that they put in a hell of a lot of money into it, right? So it motivates a lot of people to get like really good, and it also helps that they also host like very consistent cups on their on in game, you know what I mean? You don't have to do anything crazy besides go in game and sign up for it, you know? But what about like you joining a team, right? Because I know that through it you've been part of several teams that kind of led you to Team Ultra now, formerly Deathbed.
The first team I ever joined, believe it or not, was a Wi-Fi crew. And around that time, I was kind of going through a character crisis where I didn't know who I wanted to play. I was thinking about not playing Sonic anymore. I know, right?
That's
So
crazy, bro.
I played Mario for the tryout,
I
and
remember that.
I passed with Mario, but I played Sonic, so I didn't really know what to do. But I played more Sonic in the crew, and they liked me more. And I don't remember what it was called, actually. I honestly don't remember what it was called. And then I joined another crew because of my old crew that I was first part of merged with another crew. I think it was called like Cozy Squad or something. And the main logo was just a cat, a white cat. But ever since then, and then my first ever esports team I was a part of was a really bad one called Myth. I was really excited, but then I found out they had a lot of shady stuff going on in the background, so I left immediately. I probably couldn't have got skyrocketed where my Smash career is now without the help from a little name that you guys might know, World Esports. Without my experience at World, I don't think I would have gotten into competitive Smash like it was today. I don't think I would have been on Team Ultra, formerly known Deathbed, then I was not. And I was on Zeno's old team as well, Nova. And I think without that, then I probably would not have been into competitive Smash Ultimate like I am today.
That's pretty cool that through finding out about like what motivated you, how did you stumble upon the crew though? Like how did you dip your toes
I
into
honestly, it's pretty fuzzy. I don't know how or why I got into a Wi-Fi crew. I think maybe it was cause
like
I
did
don't
you
know,
just did you
maybe a
yeah,
friend, maybe an online friend told me about it, or maybe I was just playing Smash one day and I wanted to get into the competitive scene more after playing in the HBox tournament.
that's cool though that through Fortnite essentially you were able to find
Through
your way
Fortnite
here.
Battle Royale, baby.
Fortnite does good, man. Fortnite does some good.
I'm gonna be hitting the default dance on fish sticks.
Nah, but that's really cool, man. And I'm glad again, obviously, that you're here and to hear some of those stories again. Because I feel like we're all gonna share similar things and saying that it definitely did give us a lot of friendships and the opportunity to meet a lot of different people, you know what I mean? Yeah, so thank you, champ, as always. Zeno, you want to go ahead and let us know what's up with you, because I do know that you have quite a bit to say in terms of, you know, your story with esports. So you want to go ahead and let us know?
Sure. I guess I'll just start off though by kind of explaining what I did with competitive ultimate just briefly because I didn't really tie that into what I was saying earlier. But competitive ultimate basically, I got into that when the game first came around. I think my first ultimate tournament was a Wi-Fi tournament. I don't know if you might have heard this one, but I think this bracket series is still going on, but it's called like A and Geese or something. It's like A and G. I don't know. I forget. One of my friends used to moderate for it, so yeah, no, it was a popular series. I don't know if it's still around or not. But anyway, I did that one, and then I learned about an ultimate local that's near me. So I went with that with my same IRL friend that I met in high school. We went to that together. Pretty much just went to that up until quarantine happened, pretty much, and then quarantine just kind of put a sock in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And my local was gone for like freaking, oh god, I think it was like 2 years. But yeah, that was pretty much that. At the time, I was having a lot of character crises. My mains were switching all the time. But I think when quarantine happened, I think I kind of stuck with a main for a while. Which was, and then also I didn't mention this earlier, but when we were talking about when I was playing competitive melee, was gonna mention this, but I forgot. But I was a Luigi main in melee, and I still technically am, even though I kind of have a Falco now. So yeah, I played Luigi quite a bit. Same thing in Project M as well. And then Smash 4 was Lucas, but then my mains just kind of shifted a lot, and then I just ended up dropping that game because I just didn't care. For when Ultimate first came out, I was a Greninja main for a while, and then I kind of swapped around to Luigi. Then Joker came out. I played that for a while, which I kind of made Joker my secondary, but I still kind of consider Luigi my main. Then quarantine happened, and then I was a Shulk main. And then my honestly, I had so much character crises and like kind of quarantine, which is kind of weighing down on me because I was stuck with Wi-Fi that whole entire time. And as we all know, being stuck on Wi-Fi for freaking 2 years straight is about to yeah, that's gonna hurt you. That's gonna hurt you big time.
For her.
Um, because Wi-Fi is just like, of course, not that great.
Mm-hmm.
So I had like was having character crisis and whatnot, and I almost had like motivation to like just or sorry, I just didn't. I had like demotivation not to even like play the game anymore. I was almost about to drop it, and then Nintendo drops Pyra and Mithra in this fucking game, and well, baby, let me tell you that that skyrocketed my motivation way back up, way back up. Only kind of character I ever won in this game because I just wanted a character represented for my favorite game of all time, so that just instantly made me pick the game back up. I'm like, all right, this character's in the game. I'm not dropping this game. I'm going back in. Fuck this shit. Let's go. So then I kind of just pick up that character, and yeah, that's kind of where I am with Ultimate now. Same with Power Mythra. Hasn't changed. But how I got into actually in esports and the Smash side of things, I'll get into that now. I first started with the esports side of things. This was in July 2021. And I got picked up by a team. Champ mentioned this earlier. You mentioned Myth. I was picked up by them too. Myth, however, at that time was known as Vamp, so it was a different name, but it was the same team. At that time, it was the owner. His name was Orca, and he picked me up because he read apparently my bio or whatever. He's like, "Oh, you're a Pyre Mythra player." He's like, "I'd like to have you on the team." I'm like, "Okay, interesting." So I just took it because I'm like, "Okay, I guess I'll get more exposure, or whatever." So I took it. There for a while, I met a couple people that I still know to this day. Actually, I'm sure you guys know who Seals is. I met Seals through that, and a couple other people. Also, KR Savage, of course. You guys know who KR Savage is too. I met him through that. Although Savage, well, I didn't technically meet Savage through that, but he joined that team after I had already left, but he was on the team regardless. So I kind of met him through that. But yeah, so I joined the team, Myth or Vamp as it was known back then, just as a player. But I noticed as things were going along that things weren't going as they should have been. So Orca, the owner, kind of hit me up. He said like, "Yeah, we could use a bit more help around here." And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, I would love to help around with this kind of stuff." So what I did was I became the co-owner of the team essentially, and I helped out with a lot of stuff. Running brackets, seating, and all that kind of stuff. And promoting the stuff on Twitter. So I did all that. And everything was going smoothly for a while until later that year. I think it was about like it was about 3 months in. I learned a lot of stuff about him. I'm not gonna say any stuff here because I don't want to go too in depth with it. But I learned the truth about what kind of a person he was, and I did not want to be affiliated with any sort of stuff like that. There was a whole document that was exposed about him. I'm not gonna go into that because it was just absolutely horrific, and I just refused to be associated with any kind of person like that. So I took my leave, and I was still like, even though this happened, I still have a lot of motivation for the esports side of things. And just from that alone, even though I kind of regret joining that team in the first place because, kind of went down the shitter, everything that happened. But at the same time, I am kind of thankful for it because it got me into the esports side of things. And just because I was on that team, which was known as Vamp at the time, lo and behold, the whole reason me being on Vamp led to the birth of Nova Esports. Led to that. And even though Nova's not around anymore for a lot of reasons, I will say it's probably one of my most proudest accomplishments. And the support that I had for that in the time that it was around is like nothing I ever imagined that I would ever have. And it was really great. There was a couple players that came from Myth or AK Vamp that came over to Nova from that. Of course, Champ was one of them. We had Savage who joined later on, and then because I opened up Nova, this led to a huge door opening with me meeting a lot of new people, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
those people are now in Team Ultra, of course, formerly Deathbed. We have Hockey. We had Gaius, of course, he was there, and we had a few other people that are not really on death. I don't think they're on deathbed, but there were a lot of people that were on Nova that came through Myth and just through Twitter in general. Of course, we have Seventh Devon, which is our content creator for Team Ultra. He was originally a content creator for Nova, and he would stream a lot of our brackets for us. So big shout out to him because he put on a lot of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he still does for Team Ultra. So of course, we got to thank him for that too. But yeah, Nova was kind of centered around Smash Ultimate. We did have melee. We did have that. We were more focused on the ultimate side of things, though. Basically, what was going on with Nova, what we actually did end up doing one time is that it was around for about it was 6 months, and then I abruptly, just out of nowhere, closed the team down. I didn't want to do that, but I did just for the sake because of a lot of personal struggles I was going through at the time, and I didn't know what was going to happen, and because I didn't know if I was going to be able to bring it back or not. I just didn't know what was going to happen, so I just kind of had to, shut it down and just kind of go forth with that for the time being, because my personal life was just a complete hell at the time. So I did that, and then a month passes, and everything got better really quickly. So I'm like, not everything is doing better in my personal life. It's time to bring the team back. So I did, and I'm really glad I did because when I brought it back, it was more successful than it was when I originally had it. Because I met a bunch of new people. I got a co-owner. I'll talk about it another time. I'm sure you all know who the co-owner of Nova was. But yeah, there was a lot of people. The co-owner of Nova helped me out with a bunch of stuff. Graphic designers, which we didn't have previously. When we were around originally, we didn't have that. And honestly, it was thanks to the co-owner of Nova that I was able to actually get in touch with a lot of these graphic designers, and they helped make a bunch of graphics for us for our tournaments. And we also hosted a summit, which was called Nova Summit. And that was pretty much our biggest event that we ever held, and that was just basically a summit of 16 players, all represented from Nova, being in there. And let's just say the GFX team did a really good job at making all the graphics for that. But yeah, no, when I brought it back, it was definitely a lot better than it was previously. And unfortunately, even though how successful it was during that time, I was really thankful for everything that it accomplished and the people that I met through it. And of course, 11, you were on Nova for a little bit as a content creator.
Yeah.
I'm sure you remember that.
Yeah.
And
I
then
do.
you were on as the new co-owner for a little bit, and then after that, shit hit the fan. Unfortunately, basically, I decided to actually just completely put the team to rest. Unfortunately, but I found it was best for me because of personal life things, and it was something that it was really challenging for me to keep up with. And I think it was just in my best interest just to kind of, let it go. Nothing lasts forever. Would I have liked to see it go on a bit longer? Yeah, of course I would have, because the team was something that I put a lot of effort and dedication into. But just for, the sake of the team and how I feel if it were to still be open, if I were to still somehow keep the team going, I think it would have been an absolute shithole right now. And that's something that I would have wanted to prevent. So, with that being said, I think it was just best to let it go. But it was something that I think was something that I was proud of, and it's also part of why I'm now here on Team Ultra and formerly Deathbed, and it's why it's pretty much the biggest reason why I'm here in esports today.
Hopefully, or maybe sometime later down the line, we could get into more stories about our ventures in previous teams, maybe that we currently have been doing with Team Ultra as well. But yeah, dude, I remember because a large chunk of it you talked about Nova. And Nova, I will say, just to kind of, I guess I'll just start and then I'll bring up Nova whenever we get to that point. But yeah, dude, Nova was definitely like something cool, something really really cool. And it was cool to be part of that as well for the little bit that I was actually able to be part of it for.
Mm-hmm.
But for me though, And I don't really have a competitive side for Smash because I'm not really a competitor. I'm more of a streamer, more of a content creator for the game. But for me, when it comes to esports, I found out about esports very early on, through MLG. MLG, when they were focusing on like Call of Duty. They did have a couple fighting games as well. Like I remember Dead or Alive was on there a lot of the time that I would watch it. And so I knew of esports, right? I don't know if at the time the term esports was used, but it was just mainly like MLG, like pro gaming. I think it was called pro, being a pro gamer, right? But again, it was one of those things that I knew just based off of that, right? I knew that people were making money off of playing video games, and I think honestly since then it was very inspiring for to me to potentially just get good at a game, to potentially be a competitor and be on that stage like that. So it's always been something in the back of my head since then. When it comes to actually involving myself with Smash Brother, or just in general esports, again, it wasn't until I knew that there was a competitive side of Smash Brothers where I learned of, you know, tags, right? Like obviously when I watched Hungrybox win, he was known as Liquid Hungrybox, or Armada, or was it Arma? I think he was like Armada, right? I think he was part of Team Armada, which was kind of crazy. But or
Armada. I forget
yeah,
the
Armada,
because
Armada.
yeah, because the name was Armada for the team.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I think Armada was like, wasn't Armada the CEO of that, or no?
He was something
Was it something
because I
different?
remember it was so goated because it was, the A was the logo, and then it was just the A would be the A in his tag, so it was just the logo and then Mata or whatever. Um,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Armada was his own team. I'm pretty sure he was like sponsoring himself. I
yeah,
think.
it must have been something like that, or he just had something to do with the team. But
Yeah.
yeah, so since then I looked into it. I found out about obviously Team Liquid, you know, that TSM. Obviously growing up, FaZe Clan was always big, you know, in terms of content, and just always in the associated with Call of Duty, so I learned about all that stuff there. But I didn't actually involve myself in anything regarding esports until Smash Brothers, until Ultimate came out. And at the time I still am a heavy user of Discord, so I was part of a lot of Discord servers, and I was kind of starting to get interested in potentially competing in tournaments. Just like Champ said, I started watching a ton of Hungrybox during quarantine era. I knew about him obviously, but I really started watching his streams during quarantine time, and I signed up for a couple of those. I never performed well or anything like that, but it was still really cool, and I was able to find out that there were online communities, right? Online teams that sponsored players, or take in content creators and sponsor a lot of different teams, or a lot of different people for many different roles. And the very first team that I learned about and joined their Discord server was Apple Esports. And some of you guys know Apple Esports for sponsoring players, I think like Kiarash, Jaja, RMade, and stuff like that. So they made a pretty big name for themselves within the online scene, which was, again, thriving more than ever just due to us having to forcefully stay indoors due to the pandemic. And I joined at a time when they unfortunately were on the verge of shutting down, or shut down pretty shortly after I started looking into it and joined their Discord server. I don't exactly remember the specifics. I do kind of have a broad idea, but I think that's a story for another time, and I don't want to get anything wrong too. But yeah, they unfortunately shut down. But in the middle of that, you know, there was a lot of people that were potentially interested in joining Apple Esports, or were part of Apple Esports. And I remember being in a voice call when they were breaking everything down, and you know, people were suggesting other places for people to go and check out. I like Champ, I found out about the World Esports. And the World Esports, I credit them a lot, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't necessarily had even started Deathbed, and now known as Team Ultra. And I credit them for a lot, right? And at the time, again, I'm not a competitor, so I had no shot of joining them as a player. But I saw that they had a couple of content creators, and at the time of when I joined, I if I when I joined, I was technically, if you take it in consideration numbers, I would have been their biggest content creator. And so I got in pretty much immediately after sending my application. And I also think that they needed a couple. They wanted a streamer to potentially stream their tournaments, which is what I mainly did. They had a tournament series known as the World Tournament Series, and I was the streamer for them to host their brackets and whatnot. And through that, I was able to. It was a very good trade off, obviously, because they would get their tournament streamed, and I would get the audience. So it was a good payoff, a trade out for me. And through that, I met a ton of amazing players. I, of course, met Champ. I, of course, met the owner, YC, who is, again, without World, I potentially would not be here today talking to you guys. And so I met YC and a lot of other different players that are also currently in Team Ultra. So that's really cool to see still. Through that, I wanted to kind of broaden my horizons and not just put my marbles into one place. And I started looking into what other teams there were in the scene. And when I started looking and seeing what other teams people were part of, because I think when I joined World, I noticed that there were also certain people that had not just the World tag but also other tags. And one of the tags that I kept on seeing was Nova. And at the time, I think it was when Nova was like really thriving, like potentially at its peak, before obviously Summit, leading up to Summit. I think I joined around that time, close to that time when you guys were doing like the voting period for Summit. It was really thriving, right? And the Discord server, obviously I don't want to diss World Esports, but the Discord server was well taken care of. It was like, it looked professional. And I was like, damn, like I'd be very interested to join this team. And I'm not exactly sure if I had messaged Zeno if they were looking for content creators, or if I had just submitted an application. But regardless of how it was that it went down, I ended up joining Nova as a content creator. At some point, I didn't really, unfortunately, didn't really get an opportunity to do much. I do remember hosting the first ever doubles brackets that Nova did, and that was a lot of fun to host as well.
Oh yeah, I remember that stream. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to stream that, and of course I got to meet a lot of different people within the scene, people that weren't associated with the World Esports. Being on both of those teams, and also I felt that it was enough for me. I didn't really want to look into other teams because both places were treating me pretty good as a person and whatnot. I still kept an eye out at other teams. I kept an eye out on Blaze Esports, which at the time was also on the come up, had already been in the scene for a while, but they were still also deemed as a pretty notable team at the time, still is. I found out about Taipan Esports as well, which is no longer around. But I started looking into other teams as well. I think Lunar at the time was also there. I don't think they're much of a team anymore, but Lunar was there too, sponsoring some heavy hitting players. And I started to mentally, not really physically, mentally note down what I liked about it, what I potentially would change. But obviously, yeah, I'm not the type of person that would, I like to voice my opinion, of course, but I'm not one to be like, hey, maybe you should change this for this. You know, I, people know better than I. But as time went on, I kind of started to see what I like, see what and see what I didn't like, and keeping a mental note of it. I'm not sure if I definitely still was part of Nova. I think I was part of Nova until the end of pretty much everything. And
You were,
I
yeah, I remember it.
yeah, I was part of Nova until it eventually got shut down. But I,
Right.
through the motivation of being on both teams, and again just keeping an eye out on what I did like, or what I would change, or what I would do, and then put my own spin on it, I got the motivation to start a team of myself. And the name Deathbed, I've explained it plenty of times, but it's a name that I had for a very long time, even beyond the esports thing. And at first I was very hesitant about it because I didn't want to step on anybody's toes. I didn't want to rub anybody the wrong way. But at some point I just decided that I needed to do it because I really, really wanted to, and I didn't really want to hold back. And so I did. I started Deathbed. Through hosting tournaments for both teams, and keeping an eye on online tournaments, I selected 10 players that I really believed had a lot of potential, and I contacted them, and we got 10 people. I hit up Retro Artist as well to help us out with some initial graphics, We got the logo done and everything, and we made it a thing. And my goal with it was to produce the highest like quality thing, and with that came me looking for some really talented graphic designers. And again, we had Retro, which at the time was really making a name for himself with just how good he was getting, and he got good super quickly. And of course, we all know him as like one of the top dogs in graphic designing when it comes to Smash nowadays. He's kind of like the godfather nowadays of it. And then eventually we got to meet Chain, who has always been, super super cracked at graphic designing. I really wanted to make
Oh yeah,
enough.
for sure.
Yeah,
Chain was one of our main GFX designers for Nova, and he's also done some personal like commissions from me for me as well. It's definitely one of the best GFX artists out there that I've seen for stuff like this.
yeah, just and in general too.
Yeah.
And just other people that we would meet along the way. And so I really wanted to associate myself with those people so that we could deliver the highest product that we possibly could. And as time went on, World Esports would eventually shut down. Nova, through some again, like Zeno explained, was shut down as well. And I did I did mention that I became you did mention that at the end I was co-owner for a little bit for Nova, and then it got shut down. But then I knew through my relationship with Zeno, I wanted him on the team as well, so he would eventually he was originally on as a player, believe it or not, and then he would become manager, and then he would eventually become a co-owner. um and then um
Mm-hmm.
and then of course Champ here too, he is a team manager for the team as well, so really happy to have him as on the team as well.
Hi.
And and yeah, it's been something that we have been working on for a long time. We've been consistent with our tournaments and just trying our best to do things. Very similar to Zeno, we hosted our first ever summit, the DBE summit, in March, and it was our biggest event, and it went over really well. And we continue to want to do things like that. And I'm just really happy with the way that it's been going, because we've seen a plethora of different players come and go. I think that's the meme within the scene with Deathbed, is that we have a ton of players as well, and we've had a lot of players come and go with Deathbed through different in different aspects and ratios. And it's been something that I am super happy. We sponsored the likes of initially Slushy, which was one of our, I would say, our first heavy hitting name for Deathbed, that we were able to get Slushy. And then we would go on to sign people like Atomic, Masquerada, or Mabel Duck, and eventually see the meteoric rise of players like Skeleton, DJ Dawn, and just other countless players that are on the come up. And just seeing the evolution of the players, getting to know amazing people such as Seven Devon, who Zeno mentioned hosts our weekly tournament series, and as well as the new up and coming graphic designers such as Trumpet Trash, Solar, Picaro, Tease, and whatnot. Just seeing all of them on the come up has been something really amazing, and for them to be associated and helping Deathbed was really awesome. And I keep mentioning Deathbed because the name Deathbed, we are known as Team Ultra, and just for many different reasons, right? We don't really need to get into it right now, but yeah, it's been I would say there has been some crazy stuff that has happened, some crazy stories, some bad, mostly good, I will say. But obviously we could talk about that at another time. But yeah, I've had a lot of fun, and of course I'm really excited to see where we go from here, and where where we will be in 5 years in terms of esports, if esports is still even a thing later down the line. Yeah, it's really cool that regardless of how we started in esports, we all kind of like intervened, with World and Nova, and now Team Ultra. We share a very similar story, right? That's kind of wild. But
I hope esports is around for a bit longer, but way things are going, I hope I hope it is around for a little bit longer. But the way things are going, I wouldn't be surprised if it ceases to exist within like the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, even if the esports scene is dying, the best we can all do is stick together and when in doubt, just play video games.
Yeah, man, that's why we're all here, right? Because it's a video game. Because of video games.
It's a damn video game.
It's a goddamn video game. It's not that serious, but hey, it gave us the friendships that we have today. So that's all that matters.
It's not that serious. Says and then the competitive players would say otherwise.
They're mashing their keyboards right now. Well, let me tell you, yeah, guys, we that's what we mainly wanted to talk about. We wanted to introduce you guys to us. And the main reason is because we are going to be your frequent hosts here, of course, and one of us can make it, hopefully there's somebody else to substitute, or, there will be an amazing guest that could potentially take over and help out for that certain episode. And our goal with the podcast is for you to know not only us, but also our potential guests, right? We have a lot of people on deathbed that I would want to hear more from and get to know them a little better, how they got to where they are today, and what, depending on their role or whatnot. And not only just people within Team Ultra. Sorry if I keep saying deathbed. It's the name change is so recent. We really want to interview and get to know people within the scene. So hopefully, as we continue to grow, as not only as a team but also with the channel and the podcast, hopefully we could have some professional players, maybe some TOs, maybe some commentators, maybe prominent people within the scene, or just people who have some sort of lore within the Smash community. So hopefully you guys stick with us. Again, the name is still undetermined, but we will have it in the title as well as the beginning, or maybe now on your screen. And is there anything you guys want to like potentially see from the podcast? Anything you guys want to do? Maybe like a dream guest before we wrap it up that you would like to see here?
I can't wait. So one thing I'm really looking forward for the podcast is definitely special guests.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I'm excited for the topics that we want to talk about. There's so many juicy things happening out there in the world that the media just blows up, and being able to hear our takes about it and sharing it and releasing it with the world, it's gonna be pretty cool. We may or may not get canceled, but it's gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah, we try to keep it chill for now.
The one special guest I want is Mr. Beast. No, I'm kidding.
Hell yeah.
Imagine we got Mr. Beast on this. Imagine how crazy that would be.
Beast for the podcast.
But like seriously though, if we were to get anybody on here, I know like the chances of this are extremely slim. But if we were to get somebody that's like really familiar with like esports and specifically Smash, I would choose somebody like MKLeo or Hungry Box, but the chances of that is very slim.
We probably have to pay him to come on our podcast.
Yeah.
Hey, we can only hope, and that's why we got to continue to do this and continue to grow. And I do believe, man, I don't want to lower my I want to keep it humble, of course, but I do believe that it's something that we could definitely do. But yeah, and again, this isn't just going to be a Smash Brothers podcast. We won't only just talk about Smash Brothers. We, like Champ said, we do want to talk about things within the gaming community, just things that are happening, maybe even some real world stuff if we're really like interested and have something either funny or just want to like bring it up. So we want to keep it general. If you guys have any suggestions, if you guys made it this far, if you have suggestions or things you would like to see, please leave them down below in the comments. And we do also plan to not only pre-record these podcasts, but hopefully in the future also stream them and have you guys there live, so you guys could give us topics to talk about or things to mention, or just be involved in a more live manner in that aspect. But yeah, we're gonna leave it at that. I really do appreciate your guys' time here, and I can't wait, and I'm really looking forward to continuing this and seeing where it takes us and seeing who we could potentially bring on. But do expect the guest for the next one. We'll see who we could interview, potentially a player, content creator, or whoever is on deathbed. Any parting words before we wrap this up, guys?
To all the people who are watching here, be sure to stay safe, stay awesome, and take care of yourself.
Yes, sir.
Everybody watching this, stay cool and stay safe, like Champ said. One thing, I would give a bit of a motivation message here. If you're ever feeling down, just know that you matter and you can reach your goals.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to know that you guys are beautiful, that you guys matter, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. If you guys enjoyed the video or the podcast, the first ever, slap a like and comment down below. Subscribe if you haven't as well. We also do have other content planned ahead, so please stay tuned for that. And like Zeno said, you guys matter. You guys are absolutely beautiful, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Have yourselves a damn good one, and thank you for joining us for the first edition of our podcast. Take care.
See you in episode 2.
Bye, guys.
Bye.